Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
I love annuities, and you should too.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the WorryFree Retirement, with your host, award-winning annuity expert and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Boy, that's a good question. What is love, and what does love have to do with annuities? You know, with all the hate speech going on in the world, yes, even including some rogue advisors out there spouting out and shouting out about how much they hate annuities. Even heard a fellow the other day, I couldn't believe this one. He said he would rather die and go to HE double hockey sticks as opposed to selling an annuity. Wow, that's pretty heavy stuff. Anyway, rather than focusing on what others hate, let's talk about what we love, and more specific, my love and millions of other savers across America who love these products we affectionately refer to as annuities. So what is love? Well, Webster's has several definitions of the word love, and since this is a G-rated show for all audiences, I'm not going to go into all of those definitions, but I love this definition. It simply says love is an affection based on admiration, benevolence, or common interests. So what in your life do you really love? I'll name a few things, not in any particular order. I know what I love, though. I love my high school sweetheart and wife of 35 years, Susan. I love my 3 kids. I absolutely love our home. I love my Black Russian Terrier, Stella. Oh yeah, I love my new granddaughter, Scout. And speaking of love, golf. Oh yeah, I love golf. And you know what? I actually love my clients. I love my staff. I love my work, and yep, I love annuities. And I promise you, again, assuming you're a saver, by the end of this show, you'll love annuities too. Now, before I share with you the many reasons why so many savers love annuities and why some advisors out there who obviously don't understand these products nor understand the mind of a saver, before I walk down and talk about all this, we're going to take a stroll down memory lane and talk about my granddad, who, after humping it for Bell South for 43 years, retired in 1978 with a company-sponsored pension plan. The pension plan is a promise from an employer or government institution to an employee that basically sets them up for retirement so that the employee can have a guaranteed income for the rest of their lives. Something, again, my granddad called mailbox money, a term we've trademarked and we use to describe annuities. Now, it's funny, my mom, she saves everything, and I always talk about my granddad. I had somebody after a workshop the other day kid with me and said, Tony, all this stuff about your granddad, you got to be making some of this up. I said, no. So I grabbed, this is an actual, Aaron, let's put this up. This is the actual letter that went from a gentleman, Mr. Ferris, to Birmingham, Alabama for Bell South, and on August 16th, 1978, it talks about the pension election that my grandfather made, and look what it says. It says, indicated acceptance of his election of the survivor option, naming his wife Hazel, look what it says, as the annuitant. Isn't that interesting? There's that word annuity. And by the way, folks, my granddad loved his mailbox money. He had no problem with annuities. The other thing I was kidding about at the workshop that somebody challenged me on, back in Granddad's day, and I remember this well because I spent a lot of time, my family and I, down at Granddad's. One of the perks of being a former Bell South employee during that time was free long-distance service. Now, Aaron barely remembers long distance. I think Matt does. But bottom line back then, folks, long distance, depending on where you called, you could be on the phone for 3 or 4 minutes. It might be $4 to make a call. So you can imagine with Granddad having free long distance service when we went down there on Sundays, who do you think was making long distance calls? Us. And here's a letter. I remember Granddad once saying, y'all gonna have to tone it down. They kind of came down on me on these long distance calls, and we thought, yeah, right, Granddad. Here's the letter. We found it. This is hilarious. March 6, 1984, from Bell South to, it says, Dear Retiree, But here's what it says. It says, it is requested that you be prudent in the use of long-distance services. For example, don't call one of our offices if a note attached to your phone bill can handle your request. Please remember that only those persons retired before January 1st continue to be eligible for a reasonable amount of toll calls. So I just thought that was interesting. Interesting time back then, and interesting thinking about all this mailbox money and this love for annuities that my granddad had. And of course, it's built the premise of why I love annuities today. So what is an annuity? Why is it that some people hate them? And why do people like me love them? Well, when we come back, really good stuff. I'm going to get the whiteboard out. I'm going to talk about the 3 myths about annuities that Wall Street doesn't understand and why they don't like them. We'll debunk those real quickly. And then we'll talk about the 3 things about annuities that savers actually really love. This is good stuff. If you're sitting there and you got money languishing in the bank, you got an old 401k, an IRA, you've been to a dinner seminar pitching annuities, whatever the case may be, if you want a guaranteed income you can never outlive, if you want to have what we call sleep insurance, stay tuned. This is going to be some good stuff. I'll be right back. Tired of getting up every day and heading off to work with no end in sight? I'm retirement specialist Tony Walker, and I've helped lots of people retire much sooner than they ever thought possible, and maybe I can help you do the same.
If you're over the age of 50 and have at least $250,000 to invest, schedule your free meeting with Tony to see if you can retire sooner than you think. Simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Are you retired or retiring soon? Do you have a 401k, IRA, thrift savings account, 403b, or lump sum pension that you'd like to move to safer territory? Did you know that all the money you see on your 401k statement isn't really yours? Depending on your overall taxable income, the government has essentially a lien on your 401k that can tax as much as 40% of your money when you go to take it out. Tony Walker calls this the 401k tax tumor. For over 33 years, retirement specialist Tony Walker has helped thousands of savers worry less about money by creating game plans to deal with your tax tumor. Get control of your retirement by controlling the taxes owed on it. Schedule a free meeting to see if you can reduce your tax tumor and provide a guaranteed income you can never outlive. To get started, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Welcome back to the WorryFree Retirement. Great segment coming up. We're going to debunk some of the most popular myths about annuities, and then we're going to share the 3 biggest reasons that I've learned in writing over 2,500 annuities over the last 17 years or so. The 3 biggest reasons why savers love them. All right, so on the board here, what I've done, let's kind of take a look at this. There's a lot of myths about annuities, but what you hear if you go on the internet or late night TV, there's a lot of people on there really antagonistic about annuities. Seem like they're upset about something. I don't know. Like we talked about earlier, my granddad loved these things. My clients love them. So we're going to find out what's to hate, right? Well, what they'll say is they say that watch out for annuities because of surrender charges. Number 2, they go on and on about fees. And then finally, they always talk about your money being tied up. So let's start with the first myth, and that's surrender charges. Now, first of all, annuities do have surrender charges. What a surrender charge means is during the term of the annuity, which can be 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10, all the way to 16 years, if you cancel that annuity, all right, there's a surrender charge. That's reasonable when you think about it, because the annuity, the longer the term, the more they're going to promise to give you. Bank CDs, when you think about it, have surrender charges. If you go in and open a 30-day CD, you can get your money out at any time. But if you ask the banker to put it in a 5-year CD in order to get a higher interest rate, and if you take it out early prior to the 5 years, you get surrender charges. Bonds actually come with surrender charges sometimes, because if interest rates go up and you have a long-term bond and you decide to surrender that bond, potentially you could lose money. The stock market, well, obviously it could have surrender charges. You put $100,000 in some stock or mutual fund, and the market crashes and you need your money, well, it could be down 20, 30, or 40% like in 2008. So don't be afraid of surrender charges. The key is you have to understand them. And also, this is why we don't put 100% of our money for our clients into annuities. They do have surrender charges, but they're easy to avoid if you know what you're doing. Number two is fees. Now, first of all, I'm going to make a note here. There are 4 types of annuities. When you hear people talk about high fees, they are referring to what's called variable annuities, which are in the stock market. And yes, I agree, we don't do variable annuities because we don't like high fees. So in our practice, since we're specializing in helping savers don't like high fees, we don't charge high fees on our money management practice. We only charge 0.6% for our Charles Schwab platform. And we try to always find fixed annuities that charge no more than 1.5%. The problem is the average variable annuity can be as high as 3.5% to 4%. It means if you have $100,000, you're going to lose $3,500 before you even make anything, and nothing's guaranteed. So while certainly the variable annuities come with high fees, we use what's called fixed annuities. All right, we'll talk about these in just a second, or what's called fixed indexed annuities. And these, in many cases, come with 0 to only 1% fees. All right, and I'll show you my wife's in just a second. Now, the third common myth is your money's all tied up. I don't even know what this even really means. Basically, an annuity will have surrender charges, right? That's true with most types of investments, but it's not tied up. Basically, if you were to die at death, okay, 100% of the money goes to your, whoever it might be, we'll just say your family, passes by beneficiary. So the surrender charges are wiped away immediately at death. Most contracts every year, I'm going to abbreviate, it's called PFW, allow you to take up to 10% of the contract out, penalty-free every year. So again, you can get your money out, and worst case scenario, if you had to get it, yeah, you'll have to pay a surrender charge, and I'll show you in a minute on my wife's policy again we just took out. Sometimes it's not that much, sometimes it can be substantial, but it doesn't mean your money's tied up. Now what's funny about this, I had somebody come in the other day, and they had a 401k plan. And they're thinking about moving money over to our process. And I showed them a game plan. They said, man, I love this, Tony. I like the idea of these annuities. I can't even get annuities in my 401k. And didn't you say when I'm over 59 and a half, I can roll that 401k out and put it in an IRA? You may not know that. In most cases, if you are still working, still employed, but you're over the age of 59 and a half, and you're worried about the 401k maybe plummeting, and you want to get some mailbox money, you can move it over to our process, except in certain situations. So this gentleman, I said, hey, we better call the company first, the custodian, make sure we can do this. Voila, they said, no, you can't. And he was like shocked. He said, what do you mean I can't get my 401k out? They said, you have to quit your job or terminate employment before we'll get it out. So in that case, his money is totally tied up until he leaves his employer. To me, that doesn't sound good at all. Now, we're going to talk about the 3 biggest reasons that savers love annuities, and in the essence of time, we need a clean whiteboard, and I need a little magic. All right, here we are. So what do savers love about annuities? Savers love, and there's 3 things as well. Number 1, guarantees, okay? So many of the people are Wall Street folks that don't like these annuities, and they don't understand the importance of guarantees. Annuities are insurance contracts. They're backed by insurance companies. They are contractual guarantees, so they can make sure that if the market, especially with an indexed annuity, goes down, you don't lose any of your principal. For instance, I've got my wife's annuity that I took out last year. Now, this is a participation rate annuity. There are no fees. Let's take a look at her statement here. She put in $100,000 last year in September, so her contract just came up for renewal. That means they're going to peg the value at the end of September 18th of every year. And look at this. She made a percentage of the market, or $7,520. Now that $7,520 is now locked in. It's at $107,000. Now that cannot go backwards. She cannot lose that money. And look at the surrender value. The surrender value bumped up to $98,649. So worst case scenario, my wife could take the surrender value. She didn't lose much. She only put in $100,000. She could actually take a 10% penalty-free withdrawal, the $107,000, or if she were to pass away, I would get the full $107,000 without penalty. If I'm not around, our kids get it without probate. What's not to love about that? The second thing that the savers love is what we call mailbox money. Now, mailbox money, the definition, the trademark term that we use, is guaranteed income you can never outlive. Guaranteed income you can never outlive. Think about this. You can't turn your 401k into mailbox money. If you've got mutual funds, stocks, ETFs, bonds, our Charles Schwab platform, we can't turn it into mailbox money because by definition, that income is not guaranteed to last as long as you do. So most people, like my granddad, okay, it was called the pension back then, aren't eligible for pensions or mailbox money. But now with the private annuity and with the fixed indexed annuity and these income riders, we can provide you mailbox money. Incidentally, we got a great booklet on this. You ought to check it out. Go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. It's a free download. It's called Mailbox Money for Life. If you don't have access to the internet, give us a call and order it. We'll send you a free copy. Again, it's called Mailbox Money for Life. Basically, we can move just about any account into a mailbox money account. We could take money that's languished in the bank. You could take an old annuity and roll it into one of these newer annuities. You could roll your 401k, move your IRA, maybe an inheritance. We have a lot of people who are starting to inherit money and they don't know where to put it and they need additional guaranteed income. Great place to put money when you receive an inheritance, all right? And then the third reason that savers love annuities is it's actually, people say, well, those things are complicated. Easy to understand and monitor. See, the problem with savers, once they get into the world of Wally World and they get all these statements, these 30-page reports and capital gains and all this stuff, they bring them into me. Most people say, Tony, I don't even know what this is. I can't even tell how much money I've made. I'm staying up at night just getting these statements in the mail every quarter. What I would say is, again, here's a statement from my wife. She's a nurse. I've said this before. She doesn't understand anything about money, doesn't care. She just wants it protected. I may have mentioned several weeks ago, I think I did, that I lost my mother-in-law, her mother. And my wife's going to inherit a little bit of money. And she said, well, Tony, where should I invest this money? And I start reeling off different things. Every time I mention a particular product or strategy, she goes, can I lose money? If I said, yeah, you could, I don't want that. We kept going. Finally, I said, Susan, let me show you this annuity you've got. Do you really understand this? She said, well, not really. I get the statement out. I showed her she made $7,500 last year. I showed her that she cannot lose that money even if the market crashes. And she said, what's not to love about that? So again, folks, this is easy for her to understand. And you've got to remember something. This is a really key point with annuities, especially if you have somebody like us that's this experienced in annuities and can help you with a game plan. As you get older, now annuities basically are for people that are near retirement or retired, quite frankly, because they're thinking more about safety, security, mailbox money. But think about this. As you get older, the more complicated your finances are, the more you will worry. That is a fact. Folks, I've met with literally thousands of people over the years, and a lot of times people come to me because they say, Tony, I don't know why I'm so worried, but I'm worried. And then I'll say, well, can I see your game plan? And they'll say, what are you talking about? I don't have a game plan. They're handing me investment statements, old annuity contracts, CDs. They don't have a game plan on how they're going to use and enjoy and protect that money. That's what we do. So if you're sitting there right now saying, Tony, I don't know why everybody hates annuities, but they sound pretty darn good to me. Why don't you schedule a time to meet with me in person? It's really easy to do. All you got to do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and click on that Let's Get Started button, or give us a call 24/7. Let the answering service know that you would like to meet with me in person. Now, I can meet with you at either our Bowling Green, Kentucky office at 2451 Industrial Drive, or our brand new offices on Shelbyville Road, just down from the Oxmoor Mall in Louisville, Kentucky. So take advantage of this free offer. Do it now. Let's meet and let's see if I can help you worry less about money. Well, we've been talking a lot about love and hate. Does the Bible have anything to say about these two topics? You bet. But first, I got to get me a cup of coffee. You stay tuned. Some good stuff coming your way. Tired of getting up every day and heading off to work with no end in sight? I'm retirement specialist Tony Walker, and I've helped lots of people retire much sooner than they ever thought possible, and maybe I can help you do the same.
If you're over the age of 50 and have at least $250,000 to invest, schedule your free meeting with Tony to see if you can retire sooner than you think. Simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Are you retired or retiring soon? Can you afford for your money to take a hit with the stock market being so volatile these days? Nobody can time the market, but having a retirement game plan with Tony Walker Financial gives you peace of mind and sleep insurance. Learn how to prevent losses in your retirement accounts and plan your retirement around an income you can never outlive. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com today to schedule a personal meeting with Tony to secure your hard-earned money. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Let's face it, the last thing you want in retirement is to be full of life and flat broke. I'm Tony Walker, and for the past 33 years, I've made it my life's mission to make certain that my clients don't go broke in retirement by providing mailbox money for life. Let me show you how easy it is to be worry-free in retirement by creating a guaranteed income you can never outlive. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started today. Oh yeah, a good cup of coffee on this day, and hope you're enjoying today's program. By the way, I love coffee, I guess you noticed. We're talking a lot about love on the show today, and of all the loves of my life, we're talking about the Bible, of course, here, I saved the best love for last, and that's the love of God that He has for me as expressed by His Son. You see, folks, of all the things that attract our affections, yes, even love we have for our spouses, we have for the things of this world, they all pale in comparison to the love of God and the affection He feels for us. The reason? The world's love is temporary, but God's love is eternal. You know this verse. Let's go there, Aaron. This is the greatest verse in Scripture about love. It's John 3:16, which simply says, "For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever shall believe in Him shall have, not might have, shall have eternal life." You want to know the problem with the world's temporary love, folks? It's very attractive because it can be very pleasurable. Let's just be honest. And unfortunately, whether we want to admit it, the world's love is hard to avoid. Everywhere we turn, it keeps calling us out. Watch much TV lately? Maybe you got a cell phone you're scrolling through. These devices blare a wonderful thing sometimes, but also it's a boisterous love. It can be a raucous love. And if you sit there long enough, you can feel like I do sometimes, like I'm a fool perched on a post watching this cantankerous nonsense, forgetting that this walk here on earth is temporary. Now, the Bible has something to say about this type of love, and it calls this world a harlot. You know what a harlot is? You probably do, but let's not get into that. But basically, a harlot's job is to provide temporary pleasure, and the type of pleasure that sometimes can be deadly. Let's go over to Proverbs 9:13. I'm going somewhere with this, folks. This is some good stuff. It basically describes a harlot that represents the world sitting in a doorway by her house. She's seated in a high place, so everybody that goes by can't avoid her. And now again, I'm not blaming TV. We're just using this as a good visual. Think about it. We sit, and what do we have in almost every room of our house? A TV. And if you're not careful, there's a lot of things coming out of that TV that are calling you towards something. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not too good. So there we are. We're desiring to please God, yet this old world keeps barking out at us. We're trying to mind our own business, and here's this harlot over there telling us that there's something else better. In verse 17, look what it says. It says, "Stolen water is sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant." Now, she's talking about things that are not love at all. This is things that we do in secret, or we steal things. Folks, that's not love. That's just hatred. Let's turn over, Aaron, real quick to 2 Peter 2:2. It deals with this very subject. It refers to false prophets, people that entice you to do things based on greed or sensuality. And guess what? They exploit you. So the result of this is not love at all. It's hatred, and it's nonsense. Now, here's the worst verse of all. If you go down this road long enough, you know what this harlot leads to? It leads to being dead. So the harlot's sole purpose, the world, and again, we're not saying we can't live in the world and get along with the world. We're just saying the sole purpose of the world in many cases is to try to pull us away from the peace and security of God's love, something He's already willing to offer you. When you hear her calling, you got to be real careful. Here's what I would say. You got two choices. You can either run to her or run away from her. And you say, well, Tony, wait a minute. Whoa, man, this is some heavy stuff. What in the world does a harlot calling out for my money have to do with my money? And friend, that's what we're talking about. It has everything to do with your money. Now again, money in and of itself, there's nothing wrong with money. It's just a commodity. We have to use it to live, to buy things, to retire on. But money, quite frankly, can become a harlot if we don't take care of ourselves. It's a temporary happiness. It's not an eternal happiness. So here we are. We're talking about relationships. We're talking about love. And I got to ask you a question right now. There you are trying to maybe go it alone. Or maybe you have an advisor you don't really trust. Do you feel, even maybe, that the financial world loves your money more than they love you? Well, you know, we talked earlier about my clients. Guess what? I got over 2,000 clients, and I can honestly say this. I have personally met with each client. And I don't get them in the door with slick advertising, nor do I fade away in the sunset to turn them over, as one person once said, to young whippersnappers. In fact, as a token of my appreciation for our clients, you know what we do every year? We have client appreciation events. Why do I do this? Because I appreciate them and I want to thank them, and also I'm thankful to God that He's given me the ability to do what I do. My wife the other day said, Tony, man, you're still working awful hard. You know, you're 58 years of age. You don't have to work this hard. Why are you doing this? And I said, Susan, as long as I'm able to do this, I'm going to keep helping as many people as I can because I love doing what I do. And it would be a privilege, quite frankly. You're sitting there saying, well, Tony, do you really meet with everybody in person? Yes, I do. And it would be a privilege to sit down with you and meet with you in person. You and I, face to face, knees to knees, just to find out what's going on in your life and how we can help you. And you say, well, how can I do that, Tony? That's the best part. It's really easy. All you do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Now, once there, you're going to click on that Let's Get Started button. What happens is that information is confidentially sent to our office. You will then be given an opportunity to meet with me conveniently at your pace here in either our Bowling Green or Louisville, Kentucky offices. Now, at the first meeting, you bring in your confidential information. We meet for about 30 minutes, and all we do is find out what it is you're trying to get help with and how we might be able to help you with the Worry-Free Retirement. The second appointment, I think this is the best news of all, at no cost, I'm going to give you a free assessment in writing. None of this making you move money over to us before we give you in writing, but folks, don't do that. Make sure whoever you're talking with gives you a game plan in writing as to what you're going to do with all of your assets, including if you have annuities. So it's that simple. So log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or give us a call 24/7 at 877-499-9255. That's 877-499-WALK. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's show. I've loved being here with you. And between now and next time, you remember, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.
Thank you for watching the Worry-Free Retirement with Tony Walker. If you need a safe and simple game plan for your retirement, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and schedule a free, no-obligation meeting with Tony.